Okay. So now we're live to the world. In fact, I'll show you what you see though. So you don't have to worry, the camera's not on you. This is what I'm using. It's all on me or the board. So so when you see me looking at here, I'm making sure everything's working. And I forgot to put my earpiece in, but the microphone seems to be picking up. So we'll just go with it today. I know from the other ones it worked pretty good, but I usually use a Bluetooth thing because it picks up the sound a little bit better. But I guess I was too nervous to get started with that. So anyway, this is Math 141, College Mathematics. We have, how many of you have already registered for the Math AS part of the class? I know a lot of you have. If you haven't, that's okay. We'll talk a little bit about it. I sent out a video, didn't I, of how to do it? Was that helpful? Okay. And again, what I'm trying to do is I practiced over the 3 weeks of break. I just kept working. In fact, I was having so much fun. I worked 10 to 12 hours a day. Wake up at 6 in the morning, start making videos or playing with this software. And as I was doing this, that's when I got the idea, hey, why don't I just record all these classes? And then that way, if you aren't in class, you could still attend class virtually by watching the videos. And what sealed it for me was about last week. I was driving and listening to NPR, and they had these researchers on that were talking about behavior change and how hard it is to change our behaviors. And I know that, like, yeah, I like to eat certain foods. I know there's certain ones I shouldn't eat, but I keep eating them. And, so it just talks about things like that, certain things we do that we'd like to change, but we can't. Or sometimes others would like to change our behavior, and we don't want to change our behavior because we're having fun with what we're doing or something. And what I found, I don't know, it took me to attendance in class, because I know a lot of students want to be in class, but things happen, they can't be in class. Others, anyway, class attendance, because I find that when you attend class, those who attend all the way through typically will be successful and make it through. So I was thinking, because one of the researchers said, one of the problems in this world, not problem in the world, but one of the issues is maybe we shouldn't try to change people's behaviors. Maybe we should try to change how we do things so that whatever behavior they're doing meets the needs, right? And I thought, if I live stream, you can attend class 100%. You just fit it in with your time. If you wake up at 2 in the morning and like to do your math, you'll be able to attend class then, right? Just because you weren't here in the morning, you could still do it later. So we're going to work with that class attendance, and we'll go over the syllabus in a moment. Class attendance can be either physically being here or watching it equally, okay? It's not like, oh, you lose some points because you only watched the video. And I'm hoping, from my last class, in fact, actually, one of my students said that I have a kind of a soft voice, and I apologize for that, but it's what I am, okay? But it was a little hard for her to hear me in class, but she said she watched the video, and she could turn the volume up, and she heard me much more clearly. So the other part I'm hoping is that it will feed certain learning styles that didn't work as well in the class. So I guess, you could all just stop coming, and then I'm just talking to a camera here. But I think some of you will keep coming, which makes it more interesting for me and makes the class more live because we've got some interaction going on. And we're just catching this part of it. So one of the things I'll have to sort of remember to do is when you ask a question, I may be repeating it just so that the folks that are watching the video hear it. Sometimes I forget about that. If you watch the videos, or as you watch those videos, if you have feedback, let me know. The first one I did, they basically saw this, my big old belly, instead of my face, because I had the thing, I watched it, somebody sees my belly, I'll have to fix that next time. And I did, I adjusted. So I'm getting it where, I'm trying to work with the camera, trying to just get comfortable so that I'm just teaching how I teach, but still recording it. Okay, so does that sound good? One of the things I came up with is to kind of check attendance is we'll have like just a simple little quiz. And I thought, well, in the quiz, instead of doing math stuff, because you might just figure out the math stuff, I did 2 plus 2, what is that? It's 4, right? So you might figure that out on your own. But if I do something like a word of the day, how are you going to know what the word of the day is unless you were here or unless you watched the video? So this is the way we're going to check it. We'll have like a word of the day. And actually, first I thought I'd have 3 words of the day, so one at the beginning, one at the middle, one at the end to make sure. And I thought that's a little bit over the top, and I'll never remember to do all that. So we'll just have 1 word of the day. So the deal is after we're done with class, I will upload this into YouTube, put a link in Canvas, and I'll show you. And actually, I'll do a follow-up video that shows you Canvas and exactly where to go. Go to modules and go link here. There'll be a link to the video. Again, you guys are here, so that's fine, but those who missed will still see it through email. And right underneath that, there'll be the attendance quiz. And even though you're here and I've checked you off, we're going to do this sort of as a first trial run. You'll go in and take that quiz. You'll do the word of the day, and there'll be 4 words, and one of them will be our word of the day. And that will say that you attended class. And in the future, if you weren't here, you would watch the video and you would pick up the word of the day, and you would, that's verifying that you watched some of the video, okay? And that's the way we'll keep track of attendance, because what I want to shoot for is everybody 100% attendance. And that might sound like too much, but I think if I make the technology where that's possible, why not? Why not everybody attended every class, and everybody got an A, and everybody just really learned, and that's what the goal is, okay? So we need a word of the day, and I've been tutoring, and I saw my mind's all scrambled, and I can't think of a word of the day. Can someone give us a nice, positive, send-off word of the day? Think of a nice, what would be a good word of the day for our first day of
Success.
Success. Success.
Yes.
I can even spell it. So.
I know, it's a tricky one.
It is, because you want to put another S in there. It's a C becomes like an S. So success is going to be our word of the day. So let's see. And it kind of shows up here. And I even cheated in my other classes when I sent them the video with it. I said, here's the 4 words. This is not it. This is not. I won't tell you what it is, but I'll tell you the 3 that it's not. So, there'll probably be success, snake. I'll make up 3 other words that are sort of close, but not it. So again, you'll go in there, and that's how you're going to verify attendance. Let me just switch back. Give a nice, good picture of it. There, that's a better picture. Word of the day, success. Okay, and I've also got kind of camera angles that I can switch back and forth. It's kind of fun. This is more fun teaching. It's almost like I'm a producer now. Okay. Everyone got a syllabus. Have a syllabus, I guess. There we go. Let's get that here. No. Okay, oh, that's right. You came back in, but you were here earlier. Okay. So let's see. What should we do first? How about syllabus stuff? Come here. There we go. Okay, and it opens up nicely right there. Let's check to make sure. And the other thing I did was, you'll see the sizing of the window is kind of different here. I noticed in one of my classes I was going through the syllabus, but only half of it was showing up on the video, but we'll fix it. So this is about what you got, except yours is blue and mine's boring white, but we'll make sure, okay? So, first thing, this is the class. I am also, well, let me just ask, is anyone here in the online class? If you're not, you're welcome to attend. So you may see some people from the online class. They're in the same Canvas and Matheus, so there's really no difference between the hybrid and the online, except that what you've done as being a hybrid student, you've bought a priority ticket to class. You have a seat if you want to come. But you could also, after a while, if you find that the techniques are stuff, if you want to start treating this as an online class, you're welcome to do it. And again, because you're going to attend class by watching the class videos, or you're going to be doing, so that's the way they're going to. That's what I'm requiring of the online class, is that they will watch the same video, so they're going to watch this anyway, or at least hopefully verify it with the word of the day. So it's kind of like you guys are the ones that make the class come alive, because you're here. You'll be asking questions and interacting with me, and they're going to have the benefit of that by watching it. And if some of them need to be here, then they can come, because there's some extra seats here, and we'll do it. There's computers, and what those will get used for is primarily, since we're only meeting once a week, I'll present some of the material, but it might only take 40 minutes. It might take a full hour, but we'll have the rest of the class period to start working into the homework. I've scheduled an office hour right after this class, so we can continue working. So you get some built-in tutoring in this as well. So that's the other reason I want those of the online, if they can make it at the time, they could show up and get some questions answered. Okay, you could stay and keep working on this and get some questions answered. Now there's a couple times where there's department meetings at 12 o'clock and they have this room scheduled. So the room next to us is open, but I'm supposed to be in the department meeting, so it'll sort of continue. We can have you move over if you want to keep working on the computers. And I can maybe pop back and forth and check in on you, but there'll be a few, usually it's once a month. In February, towards the end of February, there's a department meeting. I've got to be at it. So I'll be there, but otherwise we'll be able to have office hours and get you help tutoring. If you don't need it, you can go and do the work some other time as well. So those are some options available. Okay, so my contact information, and as you can kind of see, I was talking about the office hours. So 11:45 gives me like a 5-minute bathroom break or something. I don't know. To 12:50, we've got this room scheduled for ourselves to continue working. Last year, I taught this same section, except it wasn't hybrid. So we had not as many people signed up initially, because it was like 3 hours on Friday, and I don't want to spend 3 hours on Friday. Most of you thought, oh, an hour and a half on Friday, I could do that, right? But had this been 3 hours, how many of you wouldn't have signed up? Probably. I'm not going to be there for 3. But the thing is what it ended up being is an hour and a half class with an hour and a half of tutoring, and only 2 or 3 people usually stayed. Sometimes there was more, but that's great. It doesn't bother me. Those who needed help got the help they needed. And those, you're going to see, I'll share with you all the online resources. There's a lot of things. I did some videos where I've actually worked through a lot of the problems, and sometimes you just watch those and it answers a lot of the questions. It's just like being here. And that's what I do with this, is if I record things, then it's out. If I did something really good, it's recorded forever. And I just, instead of doing it again, I just, here, watch this. And then sometimes I forgot what I did, right? Have you ever, so you did something that was like awesome, but you never can do it again because you forgot how it happened or something. How you explain it, that's what teaching, sometimes it's just, there's something that explains it right. Okay? And then just kind of what we'll be doing today, once we get an idea of how the course is laid out, I'm going to do an introductory activity, that's what it's called, yeah, math activity, where it's more based on the culture of or culture and mathematics, and the history of math, how it was developed. And I'm going to teach you some nice tricks from ancient India on how math was done mentally and with the hands. And I'll give you a technique that I share with all my students that could get you a free meal. Anyone interested in a free meal by using math? Then you can't say, well, where am I going to use this? I'm going to say, well, you're going to use this one at happy hour, and you're going to get 3 hors d'oeuvres or whatever, So this is definitely, and I've had it work. I've had students. I had 2 of my favorite stories. One student pulled it on his friends, and he got 3 free meals out of it from the same people with the same trick. And one lady went to her neighbor. She went home with 2 bottles of wine. So this, just by using this trick. Okay, so I'm gonna share that with you. And we'll go through that. And then your homework for that, to get the points, there'll be just a 1-page paper that you're going to write. And all it is a reflection on what did you learn today? What did you like? How did you feel about it? Or what did you not like? So it's just feedback on today's class. If you give me that, you get the first, I don't know, was it 20 or 40 points, whatever I had in there. I got the introductory activity. The folks in the online class, this is what some are saying. How do I do the introductory activity? I said, you have to wait till Friday because I'm going to do it in class. And the online folks, and welcome to all you people who are online as well. So I don't want to leave them out. They're part of our audience. While they're there, this is their activity as well. Okay. So in the introductory thing, did I go over the syllabus as well? I can't remember what I did in that. Sort of. Okay, so we'll just highlight a bunch of stuff that you could read, or it's not really all that important, just official stuff. This is maybe important, how you score your points. So again, today we'll get the 20 points, which is an introductory activity, which is actually about half of it. I'm feeling generous today. Let's make it 20 points plus a 20 points of extra credit. So you get the 20 that you need, plus you get 20. So it's like 2 for the price of 1 day. Isn't that kind of cool? So just write one paper and you get an extra 20 points. Let's do that. I like to start with extra credit. And what it does for me is that when people say, well, can't you round up my grade? I said, well, did you do the extra credit is what's going to get your grade rounded up. So, and I'll give you enough. There'll be another opportunity for another like a 40 points, so 40, 60 points of extra credit. That's like half of a grade point, you'll see. So I base the class on 1,000 points just because it sounds more interesting than saying 100 points. Because if I give you 1 point, that's not a big deal. If I give you 2 points, that's not a big deal. But if I give you 20 points, that sounds like a big deal. But it's because it's out of 1,000 that 20 sounds good, right? So we do 1,000 points. We'll go over Math AS. It'll show you each of the learning activities. We have 12 chapters of stuff we'll do, which we're not going to start into that actually until next Friday. So I'll give you all the tools. If you get started, you might be done with Chapter 8, which is our first unit, by next week. You're like a week ahead, and so that you're always ahead of the curve. Some of you might want to wait till next Friday and see what I do in class. That's fine, and you'll just be right on track. So we give you this week sort of buffer where you can kind of get comfortable with the class, get all the resources working, get your extra credit, starting ahead of things, and then next week come in and just be ready to sort of start off with the content. Or for those overachievers, getting the content done before you even had to. So either way, okay. But each one will be worth 40 points, and it's detailed out there. And again, I'll kind of go over it a little bit when I get into the homework part. I'll explain how the point system works. Okay, but you can come back here. So 12 times 40 is 480 points. The 20 points for today, there's 500 points. That's half the points of the class. And again, you'll get another 20 points of extra credit if you give me the paper of what did you think today. And again, it can't be wrong because it's what you thought, right? That's all it is. There's no right or wrong. It's just what you thought. Then there's 2 other parts. So to get the other half of the score, there will be a cumulative multiple choice final exam. It's not necessarily on everything. It's on most of the stuff. It's like 2 questions out of each of the chapters we do. Some are related, some are not. We'll have a practice test that has very similar answers. We'll let you know what you need to be well prepared for it, but it's just kind of a basis check that you understand most of the main concepts out of some of the sections. Okay, it's 250 points. But don't worry too much. I'm going to show you the other 250 points. A big part of the grade, a quarter of the grade, comes from a final project. And what you're going to do is a little bit of research. And I call this, the topic is going to be the math of blank. You fill in the blank with some sort of topic. So you find something you're interested in. I had one student who was into BMX bikes and stuff, and she did the math because there's geometry, how you make the frame and angles and how you go up the hills and all this stuff. You find how math is involved in that topic. Cooking. There's all sorts of things where you find how math is used in it, and then you share that with us. It'll be a 4 to 6 minute presentation. You can do it by videos and then upload it so you don't have to get in front of people. But if you like to get in front of people, we'll give you that opportunity in class so you can present it in class. I got some people who are kind of shy, but they don't want to do the video. They come to my office and just give it to me, talk to me. Because one of the competencies is that you can explain something mathematically orally, that you can talk about math. So being able to talk how math is related to some topic. I had a guy who was doing pilot training, and he explained what dew point means to a pilot. You hear it on the news all the time, right? I don't remember it, but he did such a good explanation of what dew point is and how important it is to a pilot that now I understand. But I forgot. But I figured my pilot, I'll ask him, do you know about dew point? If he says no, I'm getting off the plane. Because he says, at certain dew points, there's not enough lift type stuff. And so he got into the mathematics of that. All sorts of cool stuff you can do. So you don't have to be a math teacher and come up with formulas, but just how is math used in a topic? That's a quarter of your grade. The other part you're doing is you're going to write a paper about it. The same topic, same research that you do, you just write a 2-page double-spaced paper. 2 to 3 pages if you like. Let's say 2 to 3, just do 2, right? Why do more? But you'll find that it'll be easy to write more. So and that's because you're supposed to also be able to communicate math in writing. So there's 2 competencies, math in orally, math in writing. So that's what I figured does it. You get to choose the topic, you get all this time to work on it, and that's, a quarter of the grade. And here's the deal, if you put a quarter of the grade, just the final project, which you have really complete control over, and the learning activities, you're already up to 750 points, which is a very solid C. So you're going to pass the class just by doing this stuff without any test sort of stuff. The test, what I tell you is, and then if you do a bit of extra credit, you can get pretty much right almost into that. Well, actually, you'll be able to get, if you do all the extra credit, you'll actually be able to get a B in the class without taking the final exam. But I say if you got that far, just take the final exam because you just need about half of the final, not even half of the final exam. You need like 40% on the final exam to get an A. So I don't want you stressing. I want you focusing on the material. And what's going to happen is you won't just get the 40% that you need in the final. You'll get the 80 or 90%, I'm sure. Because you'll learn the stuff because you're not all stressed out about it. What am I going to be tested on, right? You're just going to learn it how you want to learn it. And you're going to be fine. So passing, not a problem at all. But you got to do the work. Okay, Math AS is going to be a very important. You have to do the homework. I've had people who will do the project. I've had people who will maybe do the extra credit. They've even taken the final, but they didn't do any of the homework. But that's 480 points. You got to do the homework in here. Okay, but I'm going to show you don't have to do it all so far. Okay. So far, so good? Questions? Having fun yet? Okay. I hear some laughs. Okay, good. Let's see. What else? I'll talk about this in the PowerPoint qualitative. So there's numbers, but there's also, the quality of our learning, and I'll talk about that later in the syllabus. Attendance, basically, again, how it'll work, you'll either be here or you'll watch it online. But you'll always verify your attendance through the attendance quiz, which will be a word of the day, okay, or something. We might come up with something else. A picture of the day. A picture of the day might be fun. We'll just see. We'll have fun with this. We'll try. We'll develop it. You got ideas? Just share them with me, okay? But the goal is, again, the other thing I left out, but to get the A, you not only need the points, you need 100% attendance. But that just means you at least verified all the word of the day. The other thing is this, if I came up with this about 10 days. If you don't have attendance for 10 days, so that's like almost 2 weeks, right? So you miss it, but you didn't check in somehow. That's a possibility where I might need to withdraw you. And that's because Veterans Administration gets on us, financial aid gets on us, if we've got students that were in class all along and then we withdraw them and say, well, actually, they were never, they stopped attending 2 months ago. I said, you need to let us know when they stop attending because we want to, we gave them financial aid or we gave them veterans benefits or something, and they threatened to not give us any more benefits, and none of our students have leave. So they get on the administration gets on us, and we get on you. No, so just stay in touch. That's the only thing I'm really needing to do. So as long as you're kind of regularly checking in, we'll be good. Because I really don't want to withdraw anybody. I want everybody to finish and be successful and move on. Okay, so that's all that. And then this is really the last part. It's just kind of the schedule of the class. And notice it's for the hybrid and the online. And Basically, we're taking a chapter a week. Anyone wonder why we don't start with chapter 1?
You do?
Okay, so
No, only one.
I started with chapter 1 the first time I taught this new material, which we did do some revisions. And what I found out, the first chapter is actually geometry. And I thought it would be a nice, easy chapter to start with. For some reason, it was like a stopper for a lot of people. And they never started, and they didn't get into the course. So I said, well, And then probability was like this chapter that everyone did on their own for that particular class. So I said, well, maybe if I start with probability, since it seemed to be the easier one, and do geometry at the end, maybe that's it. And I don't know if it was, since then I'm not really sure if it was just that geometry was the first and, probability was in the middle and that's why it was. But anyway, I start with probability, and I found that in probability, if you watch the way I work things, you'll learn about fractions to decimals to percents, back and forth. Even though the questions don't always do that, I take it a little bit further. And my goal is that if you do watch those videos that I work through for chapter 8, when you get to chapter 4, you already really know about percents, because I kind of talk about percentages when I'm doing it, and you already know about a few other things. So it touches on a few axes, and I found better success when I did it, and nothing worse. So I think let's just mix it up. The other thing, I think it's good, because like a lot of times when you're taking a test, one of the best things to do is not do the first question, to start somewhere else. And so it teaches you, sometimes you can learn things by going out of order. There's one thing that, like, we don't get to Venn diagrams, something called Venn diagrams. It's chapter 7, or I might have messed up here. Yeah, I got chapter 7 and chapter 3. Those are backwards, but we'll worry about that later. But chapter 7 is actually the Venn diagrams. We use them a little bit earlier on. But what I found is we talk about it in probability when I show some examples, but we don't introduce all this stuff about what is a Venn diagram, blah, 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 blah. You just do it naturally, so that when you get to the Venn diagrams, you've said, oh, I've kind of already done this. I don't need to know all the definitions. I know how to use it. And that's sort of how I teach, is you learn by doing. And I find that's actually maybe better than going through and making all this definition and all this big deal out of something that's actually fairly simple. And so that's what we do. Now you are welcome. Well, first of all, of course we haven't gone to Matheus yet, but have we talked anything about, have you seen anything in the syllabus about late penalties or due dates? No. And it's not there, so you don't have to keep looking at it, but there is no due dates. What? No due dates? This is a suggested pacing. Again, I've got some students that she said, I'm good at geometry. Let me start with the last one. I said, that's fine. And she was a little bit anxious about the probability because she'd never done it. So she started with the end and worked, and that's fine. Online folks do that all the time. They work it. You can work it in any order. It's just I'm going to present in this order. So, and I've had some. Can you help me with the measurements? I said, well, that's the very last one. I did help her a little bit because she had another class, but I says I'm not going to teach the whole thing because that's an hour presentation. But eventually I'll have all these videos stored up, and I can say just watch it. Watch the one from last semester. But so you're welcome to work them in any order. You're welcome to quote get behind this suggested schedule because you're never really late. You'll still get full credit when you get it done. I do occasionally get students who go through the semester, and I've had some, they're in every class. I watch it, and they say, yeah, I'll get to that homework later. I kind of understand it. But then the next week comes around, they still haven't done the homework. Oh, I remembered, I'll get to it. And so last week of class, they're doing all the homework, which is a lot. Again, maybe some of you will try that. You may be successful. Some are, some aren't. So I just say, try to stay up with things. It's just less stress for you. But there is no, as long as you get it all into me by the end, you'll be fine. I see. I got this stuff. Yeah, but just make sure it's kind of. You can get tutoring on all the work, but there's still that test at the end and stuff. Okay, so you can kind of self-pace yourself through it. You can work it in different orders, especially if you see something and say, "Hey, I remember that from whatever class or something." Go ahead and work through it. There's some videos for most of the stuff, and then we've got our final exam. I officially the last day of class is supposed to be our final exam, but we'll look at that. I was wanting to have a day for in-class presentations as well, so I'm going to get probably 2 days during finals week where I will schedule a time slot where you can come and take the final exam. It gives you a little bit more time to study as well. And I'll have two, because one for this class, one for the other class, but you can choose either one, and they can choose either one. There's also, if you look in the full syllabus, there is the option of taking it. It's supposed to be a Proctor test, or it is a Proctor test. It will be through MATHAS, so it's multiple choice. You'll just choose. You'll see a problem, and you'll choose A, B, C, or D. So it can be taken sort of online. The thing is, to make it proctored, there's this thing called Proctor U. Has anyone used that before? No. It's an online service. I looked up. It'll cost. You have to actually pay for it. It's like $20 or $20 or $25. You pay for their service. What they do is they monitor you through your webcam. So you have to have a laptop or a computer with a webcam, and they've got a little video. I'll send links out to that in a little bit. You can watch what they do. Basically, they have you take a video of the room around you to make sure nobody's there helping you. And they check back in with you from time to time so that we know this is your own work. Okay, but that allows you to take it anywhere. I think I have a student this semester, maybe she's in the online, that she's going to Sweden or Switzerland. I can't remember. One of those S countries, right? She's from there, and she's going to go back like halfway through, and I says, well, you can still take it through Proctor U. So you can be anywhere in the world and still take it. Again, you just pay the fee, and we'll get it set up. So that's another option. And even though you're in the online, you can do it. You can also make arrangements. We can do it through the testing center for, if the timing doesn't work. And occasionally some people get done early, so we'll work with it all. Okay, but that's just, once everything's done, that's sort of one assessment. Did you learn the material? Okay. Questions on how the course works, information, anything else? Okay. Good. Always, see, when I first taught, I would ask a question and I'd be right on the next one. I said, oh no. So then you see me, I always look around, give you wait time, because I was always one of those students that I would never have the question right. I'd like 5 seconds later, I would have the question, but by the time I'm ready to ask it, they were on to something else. I went to Catholic school, and when the nun turned her back, you never said so, because I did that once. But then it was kind of this mean, angry thing, and so then I got quiet again, and then she turned her back again, and I said, "Oh, yeah," and she goes, "Who's talking?" And finally, they brought in the priest, and they in those days, this was the '60s, they wore black robes, and that was very scary, and so I wouldn't talk, but they were actually nice people, but those black robe things, that was when you're a little kid. It's yes.
Do you want us to turn in that one-page reflection, by email?
Yes, I'm going to show you. There will be a link, and part of it is, you're going to learn how to submit assignments on Canvas, and I'll do a video of it afterwards. I've got the assignment there. I hid it. Some of the online people said I was going to go do it. I said, you can't do it until I do the class, because we're going to talk about them, And so they wanted to do it, and I said, no, it's hidden. I will unhide it after I do the class. And you go in, but you can actually, if you want to, you can, I'll show it to you at the end of class. If you want to do it up on a Word document, you can just upload it. So that'll be fine. Okay, so that's the syllabus. The rest of the stuff is just standard stuff that they give you. Here's the thing on Proctor U. You don't have, I didn't print this part out because this is I wanted to save a few trees. Otherwise, it's like 11-page syllabus, so this is now reasonable. And that's the important stuff. But yeah, with the Proctor U, you'll have like from May 4th to May 10th that you can take it, and there's the details. So this is available either in Canvas or in Matheus as well. Okay, so you should have links to that. Okay, so we'll put that down, and then I'm going to open up Matheus just to give you a walk through the first lesson. And if I do that, every other lesson after that is very similar. So let's just go. Let's drag this one over here. Okay, that's good. Yes.
Do we need the textbook for this class?
No. Well, yes, but you have it. It's in Matheus.
Okay.
It's in Matheus electronically. So the printed version is your choice. It's a learning style thing. Maybe you like having printed paper where you can do it, then I say get it. Otherwise, it is available here. What I find is you can take a look, and there might be a few pages you want to print, but you don't want the whole thing because there's a few pages that might be helpful. Yeah, you can print off, but you will have everything is contained within Matheus, free of charge. The printed version is just a convenience if it works for you. And I would say if you're not sure, give Matheus a try first, and if you need it, it's always available. Go pick one up if you say, I'm going to print all these out, and because if you print it on campus, they charge you 10 cents a copy. You get a $25 budget at the beginning for your registration, so you could use that up. But if you printed every page, you'd use up that $25 quicker. And I think at the bookstore, it's about $25 or something like that. 20. I don't know, has anyone gotten it?
It's 21.
21. Okay. So, but that's actually cheaper than it would be to print it all through, one of these campus printers. Okay. So I'm going to log in. So again, I did a video of how to register here. Again, you would register as a new student if you don't have an account. If you do have an account, you just go ahead and use your username and password. Realizing up here, they reset the password requirements. So if you had it for last semester but you haven't used it yet, you have to reset your password. And if you have issues with that, you can always make a new account. So either way, you'll get to where you can log on. What you'll want to do is you'll get to a new course or enroll in a new course. If you click on this, that's where you'll put in the course ID and the enrollment key, which is in the syllabus on the very last page. Okay, so that information. And again, if you've already done that, perfect. I'll go back here. So I won't put it in because it won't let me enroll anyway. I'm getting emails. In fact, actually, 12 of you. I think last night I checked there was 9 here. But I'm getting, every time you enroll, I get a message of who enrolled. And I'm keeping a list just to make sure. And then, so that if anyone who hasn't enrolled, I can start contacting them and say, I really need you enrolled because you can't do the course without it. So I got to find out really quick, because here's what I want to do is if somebody signed up for this, but then they're not here and they're not going to take it, I want to get them dropped so they don't get charged, because they get charged, and even if they haven't paid it, they should have got dropped anyway. But what ends up happening is then it goes on their credit and a bunch of issues. So I drop them. If they finally show up later, I can add them back in. But so I'm keeping track. I know who's naughty. I know who's nice, right? It's almost Santa Claus. Santa Claus doesn't have this good technology. He should. Anyway, I watch what's going on. Okay. So here we go. And how many of you got to see that nice welcome? Was it fun? Didn't look as mathy? I had fun making it. This is one of the things I was playing with. I found you could take videos from YouTube. You can put a portion of them, send it to this GIF thing, and make little animated GIFs. It was just, there's so much stuff you can do online now. So it's just, and you can avoid doing work by playing with these things. But these are the types of things you can do with your presentations and have fun with it, okay? So again, here's our course resources. Where I would just start is with Unit 1, okay? Because that's what I'm going to show you. Everything you need for Unit 1, and it's Chapter 8, you'll see me referring to both, Introduction to Probability, is right in this link. There is also a link that gives you the whole textbook, but it's like it's too much all at once. give me small pieces, right? So here we are, chapter 8. And let me go into student view so you see it looks a little cleaner. It gives you your objectives, but there's the textbook with answer key. So, but it's only chapter 8, and it's got the answers to chapter 8, and I kind of put those in because the book has chapter 8, and then the answers are all the way at the end, so I put everything together here. So you can open this up, and I encourage you to do that. You can view it on your screen. I say read it, but when I say read a math book, you don't read a math book like you read a novel. Okay, so I'm going to open it up and I'm kind of explain a little bit about what I mean about that. So now you've got the PDF. You could download this so you have it on a tablet, a phone, whatever you want. It's you can print it, however you want to do it. You've got it all here. But when you read a math book, it's like there's a lot of words here. What I always skip for is I look for boxes. I look for space with formulas, and those are the things I maybe look at first. And then when I'm not quite sure, okay, probably event, number of ways over number. I'm going to explain this also in class next week, so we'll start into this. And what I will do is I'll just present probability from my perspective. It was actually in my graduate school, it was my major. I was going to be an actuarial scientist, which means I would work for an insurance company and counting beans and figuring out how much premium to charge everybody for everything, for one thing. Because I did 13 years, I worked in financial planning, selling insurance, mutual funds, retirement plans, those kind of things, and had a lot of fun and worked for some great people, but I didn't feel fulfilled because we were so successful. In the beginning, we were helping ordinary people become wealthy or to build their wealth. And after about 13 years, I was helping rich people stay rich, which I don't have any problem with it. It just wasn't any fun anymore. It was more, I want to help people, and I wasn't following my own advice, so I wasn't the one that was getting rich either. So the more I made, the more I spent. And so I said, let's get something that feeds the soul, and that's when I came back to teaching. And while I was going through this stuff, and I thought maybe I'll have this second life of, be an actuarial scientist. While I was doing that, a guy who worked for an insurance company as an actuary, he was coming back to work on his PhD to be a professor. And we got talking, I says, maybe I don't need to do that. But I'm glad I did because it gave me enough math courses to actually be a professor here. Because my major is education. I was a math education major. I had more education courses than I had math courses. If I hadn't taken those extra courses, I wouldn't have qualified to teach at a community college. I'd have to be teaching high school. And I don't do real well with high school kids because I'm too easy. And they run the class rather than me. So I found that out, and so I thought this is my place because you guys are nicer to me. And you guys help me out, and so this is my home. So anyway, I'll teach you probability. We'll go through it. We'll look at these boxes where there's, this is kind of how you read a math book. Oh, here's some nice pictures. Let me see this. You gotta visualize it. So this is how you kind of read a math book. Then you go back and maybe read some of the more deep stuff to understand it, or not. I get by without reading all the deep stuff. For me, the examples, the boxes, they kind of do it. Okay. I'm also dyslexic, so one of the things is when you're dyslexic, you don't necessarily read. You pick information out in various ways. And so for me, it works. Some of you who aren't dyslexic, sorry for you, you probably have to read every word. So now it trades the tables. Dyslexia is not necessarily a disability. There's ability parts of it. It's just a different way of learning. So we all have our differences. But you find the way that works for you. And again, I was working, I do a lot of tutoring outside of class, and I was working with a student. She was actually taking calculus, and she had done it in her own country. She was from Japan. But she came to me because what she was struggling with was the language part of learning. She says, I can understand the math, but there's parts of it that, and people were telling him, just read it again. Read it 3 times. And when she came to me, you know what I told her? Stop reading. So look at the examples, because you can see the numbers. That's the part you understand. Figure it out from there, and if you need to go back to your native language, you can work with it, but I'll bet you by just looking at that, you'll be fine. I saw her for a couple more times, and then afterwards, she stopped coming, she said, and then except at the end, she says, I was successful. The trick was, stop reading. Because the reading was what was confusing her. And I just, again, a little bit of experience, I could help. So sometimes that's what I'm going to have you do. This class is an exploration of how you learn best. And sometimes it's not by following the standard rules. Sometimes some of you are going to learn better if you have music playing or if you're watching the TV. I had one student I worked with, they had our disability resources having her take tests in a quiet room. No distractions, because that's what the doctor said was best for her. Well, she didn't do so well, and she was concerned. She came in and took it, and she was in my tutored class, and she said, "Could I take it during your tutoring time?" I said, "Yeah, but it's going to be noisy." She said, "Well, but I was failing it this way, so let me just try it." She rocked that when she took it. She realized that when she had everybody else's noise going on, it helped her focus, and that when it was quiet, it was her thoughts kept racing, and So the doctor says get a quiet room and no distractions. She found when she had all these distractions going on, she was actually able to focus better. And again, we stumble onto those types of things, but sometimes even what the experts are telling us to do, we know what's best for ourselves. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so there's the textbook. I'll go back here, and I have it open in another window so you can kind of go back and forth. There is these videos, Mindful Math videos. This is a link to a website that is connected with, I have a nonprofit organization called Open Global Village. My wife and I started this when we were started doing education abroad program. We took students from here, took them over to Thailand for 3 weeks and put them in Thai schools, students who wanted to be teachers. We put them in elementary schools over there so that they could feel what it was like to be in a different culture, and they could see the effect of culture on education and teaching, and make them really connect to people. And we went to inter-city schools, we went to a rural school, and what's something in between a rural and inner city? I don't know, whatever that is, we went there too. So we got them 3 different experiences, and a few of them did go into the teaching field and have in touch with us, so it was great. And we'd like to maybe do it again sometime, but we'll keep in touch. Anyway, the videos, notice I've done almost all the questions. Sometimes I will skip a question because it was like another question. And then after I did the first one, I realized how much work it is to make these videos sometimes. And so I started doing like the evens or the odds. And but I've done a lot of the questions, and I did go through and kind of example it. And this was when I started. This was over the summer. I have this glass board that I'm writing on, and it looks backwards, but the camera flips it. So if you want to look at it, it's kind of a good technology. But what I found is it's hard to project things on that glass, or almost impossible. So my technology is always evolving and changing. So this was a good start though, and I still have the board. I may use it from time to time. We'll see. Because it's kind of cool because it lights up and you get fluorescent stuff, and it felt very natural. It got me started because I tried making videos, but I was having difficulties. So anyway, you can just watch all of these. You'll also see there's a link in Canvas if you go into the module for this that shows it as a playlist. So you could just basically start it playing, and then one after the other, each of the problems will get worked. And my sort of suggestion with this is, don't worry about trying to work too much through it interactively. Do it passively at least the first time. Just watch it being done and just absorb it, because you'll see one question done, and you'll see the next one done similarly, and you will pick up fractions to decimals to percents, and percents to decimal. You'll pick it all up just by sort of watching it passively, and then start engaging. At least that was the design. Okay, so those are there. Those are Math AS as well. Then there is a class PowerPoint, which we will go over in class. That's why it's called a class PowerPoint. And that's accessible to you as well, just as a PowerPoint. So you could take particular slides. If you want to print them off or see them again, you could do that. It'll also be in the video. Okay, so those are there. There's a reading quiz. Now some people say, oh, it's a quiz, I have to take that, right? No, it's optional. But if you do it, and I'm going to click on it so you see what it is, it's a short version of the homework. It's like 12 questions. And some of you are going, well, that's not short, but it's shorter than the homework anyway. If you do about 70% of this, you will earn, I think, 2 extra credit points. Extra credit. But the thing is if you do it for each of them, it all adds up. That adds up to a whole nother lesson. So basically, if you do all the extra credit stuff in each of the chapters, you get a whole extra chapter. Okay, or maybe you're able to skip a chapter that you didn't do so well. So the homework quiz, though, is designed that after you looked over the chapter, saw maybe some of the videos, it gives you a sample of the types of questions you're going to be facing in the homework. So it's a good way to start off with. And again, I'll get you 2 extra credit points. But you can skip it if you want. And I've got people who will come back to it later. They'll do the other part to get the big points. And then if they want to pick up some extra credit later, they can do this. And you can wait till the end. Again, no due dates, no negatives, no subtraction. I hate subtraction, so that's why I don't want to do anything. So I don't take any points away. We only give them to you. Okay, so that's the reading quiz. But some people find it very helpful. Then you get into what's called the homework. And this is the main part. This is the one you earn up to, I think it's 25 points I'm doing this time. It is quite a few problems. It's 31. Again, sounds intimidating. It's 100 points. All you have to do is get 70 points out of the 100 to sort of get the first, I think you get like 18 points. You get about 70%. But that's what I'm looking for, is at least get 70%. After you get 70%, what will happen is the chapter test will open up for you online, and I'll show you that in a moment, because there's 2 parts. There's a chapter test and the chapter homework. If you get to 80, yes.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
If you get to 85%, so 70%, 15 more points. That's not much. Get to 80, you got all the marbles, 25 points. So I always say 85% gets you 100%. Doesn't that sound cool? Because there's a few ones in there that are kind of challenging, and some of the teachers say, well, just take them out, and maybe we don't. I said, I'll just leave them in, but I'm only going to, for me, 85% is all you need to do. However, I've got students who say, no, I got to do it all the way. If you're one of those, I just arbitrarily chose 93 because I thought that was a little bit better. If you do 93% or more, you'll get another extra credit point. So again, if you're one that pushes all the way through, there's some extra credit. And again, 85 to 90, that's only 8 more points, and some of these questions are worth 4 or 5 points, so maybe 2 more questions, boom, you're getting an extra 1 extra credit point. That can add up again. After 12, it just makes it so then when you get to the final, hey, you could miss a 2 or 3 more. It just gives you less stress. Okay, so far so good. So 70% is the first step. And then when you get 70%, I'll show you. See how the test is grayed out? That's because I haven't gotten 70% yet. But I'm going to give myself 70% by switching over to the instructor mode, which will open it up for me so that we can take a look at it. And what I want to show you is that Chapter 8 test, it's really not a test. Although what I suggest, what I ask, bless you, is that the homework, get tutoring, get help, work with each other, that's fine. When you get to the test, treat this as a test. It's an open book test, but test yourself on it by what you've gotten in your notes and your stuff. It's the same questions that were in the homework with different numbers in them. Because that's all they did, is they took the same questions out of so it's a different version of the homework problems you've already worked. So we're not going to proctor you on it. And I guess if you're stuck on one particular one and you want to understand it, I'm not going to bet, it's okay. Go ahead, get some help on it. But try to do the majority of it on your own so that I understood it enough to get through it. Okay. And again, you'll see, if you go back to the homework, there was a question just like this. So that's why when you work through the homework, even though you're doing things online and it's in a computer, or you're just putting in answers, you still have a paper pencil taking notes, keep track of your work, keep it organized, and then maybe even number them or something, put what the question was, so that when you come to the test part, hey, this was just like this one. Oh, this, okay, boom, boom, boom. It makes it easier. And that's going to help prepare you. It's going to make the final seem like just another homework problem, because that's really what they are. That's what we do with the finals. We take similar type problems. You've seen them all, and you just see them multiple times. So if you do the reading quiz, you'll see some. Homework, you'll see some. And the testing, you'll see the same type of problems again 3 different times. When you take the final, you'll see a similar type problem to it. It's just, you'll learn it, you'll understand it. Because this is what we're trying to do with this, is give you a survey of mathematics, of a lot of different types of mathematics that will help you with your future education. And the students that need this actually have a more varied need for mathematics than the students who take science. Go through the college algebra and the calculus and stuff. Those folks are getting a very specific mathematics. And that's why sometimes if you go to the tutoring center, some of the topics we're going to cover, they'll have a hard time with it because even though they're math majors, they've never had this stuff. Some of the stuff I didn't learn it until I had to go into the book and learn it. Venn diagrams, I don't remember, I mean, I've used them a little bit, but to really understand it here, I had to teach myself. Okay, so it may happen. So don't get too hard on the folks in the tutor centers or some things they'll be great with, but they may struggle. This is actually a class that they may struggle with. And they might say it's not really math. Well, it is. It's the math we use. But it's going to be the type of thing that you're going to need to have an understanding of, because you're going to be asked about it on your job, on your career, when you're doing research. And that's what our goal is to give it to you in a way where we expose you to it, but we're not trying to make you mathematicians. We're just trying to get you to know that there's a math out there. We realize most of you in your roles will become more managers of mathematical content. So you'll be doing a research project or something and realize I need something like this done. Well, let me look up in the yellow pages a math guy or something, or math lady or whatever, a math person, right? I'll find the expert that can do it, but I know it needs some math. Just like to drive a car, you don't need to know how to tear the engine apart and put it back together. But the more you know about it, when you take it in to be serviced, it's making this noise, and they say, "Oh, we got to rebuild the whole thing." You can tell the difference between if they're trying to make their month's salary off of you, or if it actually needs to be done. Okay. All right. So that's the idea, and that's really all you do. You'll do this 12 times through the different units. And I think for the test part's actually only worth 15 points. And again, I break it down a little bit. If you get one question done, you get 2 points. If you get 50%, then it keeps upping. And so once you get to 85%, though, you got all the points. If you get it to the 93 point, you even get an extra credit point off of it as well. Let me back up one thing. The main difference between, I guess I should have them both, the homework and the test. This is why you have to kind of do the homework. Let me go to the homework. You'll notice on the homework, there's this little link that says video. Just a little video that kind of explains. Now, they are not directly going to explain the same question or with different numbers, but they'll explain the concept. There's also this link where you can message the instructor. What that does is it sends me an email with a link to this question, so I know what the question is, and then you tell me maybe what you've tried and why you're not getting it right, or what you don't understand, and then I can respond back to you. I've already been interacting with a few students, probably on the online. I'm not sure, but could have been one of you. But you can send me this, and oftentimes I can get back and I can say, try this, try that. Sometimes they'll give me what they did, and I say, okay, yeah, you had that right, but you have to subtract this or this. So it's really good. You have those options. When you and you get 3 attempts on the homework. You put in an answer. If it's wrong, you get to try it again. If it's wrong, you try it again. After the 3rd time, it gives you the answer. It won't give you the points if you don't have it right. But sometimes you see the answer and you say, oh, that's how it's done. You click on something. Let me just put something in here that's probably wrong. Let's just put in 9. Oh, it's wrong. You'll get this link that says try a similar problem. And what it does is it gives you basically the same thing, but now it's 170 instead of 400. It changes the numbers a bit, randomizes the numbers. So now you try it again, but now you understand probably how to do it. Okay.
Can you start over on your chances?
Yes. Well, just for that particular one. If once you got it right, that's locked in. Yeah. So now, yeah, because it didn't give me the points for that. So now, let's see if I can try to get it right. What does it say? Group of people were asked if they had run a red light the last year. 170 responded yes. 345 responded no. Find the probability that if a person is chosen at random, they responded yes. So 170 said yes. How many said no?
345.
So that was 345 plus 70. So they questioned a total of 415 people. This is a probability. It's simple, just a little fraction. What's 170 divided by 415? Anyone got a calculator out? I'm lazy. I don't want to get mine out. So
It's like 0.40. You want an infraction?
let's see. What do we want it as? Give your answer as a decimal. Round it to the nearest thousand. So we need 3 decimal places.
409.
0.409. What's after the 9?
The 6.
6. So 6, the 9
So
gets
it's
rounded
10.
up. So yeah, 410. And we should get it right. Let's see if we do. Oh,
I think when you were adding, it should have been 170.
It should. Yeah, I was wondering, how'd you come up
Oh.
with 70? That was great.
see, that's my dyslexia. I make problems up as I go. So it should have been 515.
Okay, so.
Thank you. Yeah, speak up. Yeah, good. Anyone else catch that? You're going, what's he doing?
Well, no, we
Where'd
just
he get that
figured you knew
set?
something that we didn't know yet,
Wow.
and we were gonna learn.
Well,
it
now
right
you learned something. You actually know probably more than I do.
No.
When this is the type of things I make mistakes, but that's one of the things I found. I was almost going to drop out of school. Oh, someone open up the door there. You're in the right place. I was almost going to drop out of school. One of my teachers that I had when I was taking a calculus class the second time, and I took 2 of them the second time because after I took the first one from him, I took it again because he was so good. He was during the semester I had Dr. Crittenden. I was at Portland State University. I started at University of Washington and came home because it didn't work out so well. Anyway, during the semester he was teaching, he found that he had his daughters tested for learning disabilities because they were having troubles at schools. While he was there, the doctor decided to test him, and the doctors told him, he says, well, you know what, you don't know how to read. He's going, what? I got my PhD. Of course I know how to read. I said, well, no, what you do is not called reading. You pick information off of a page, but they could tell he doesn't read what like they call reading is to go, left to right and read each word. And they said, you have something called dyslexia. This is back in the early 80s. Some of you probably weren't alive then, right? But I was. I graduated in high school in 1980. Anyway, he explained some of this, and I could tell because the way he taught, he would show problems. He'd make mistakes like I do on the board. He would try, even though he's very intelligent, knew what he was doing, he would try to forget how to do problems so that he could show how to think the way through problems. And that's what got me through. I was used to getting professors who had it all down. It was nice and simple. It was almost like looking at a textbook, and they never made mistakes. I always made mistakes. What I needed to learn is when I make a mistake, how do I figure out I made a mistake and how do I back it off? So that's what I loved him. I loved all the mistakes he made. Everyone else was yelling at him. Someone would just walk out of the classroom. They were rude. I said, man, this is the best thing I've ever had. And then that's what I changed from engineering to teaching because I thought teaching's where it's at. So anyway, so now what do we get?
It's 0.3300.
3300. So we could just go with 0.33. And now we should probably. But see, this is the beauty of it. We get 3 chances. 0.330. Oops. Oh, I'm wrong keyboard. That's the other part. Oh shoot, this is really mess. 0.330. And then now when we submit it, it should turn green. There we go. And it says, okay. And so it took us 3 times, but we still get the full points. No penalty or anything. If we didn't get it right, we just try another one, and we can still get the full points. So you can always get 100% on everything if you want. Okay. The thing is, when you go to the test, and I want to point this out because I misunderstood it at the beginning too, is on the test, it says, let's see, come on, give me the test, there we go. It says you will have only 1 attempt for each question. So if you read that, you think, if I get it wrong, am I done? Kind of sounds like it, doesn't? But it's not true. It means you get 1 attempt, and then it'll tell you whether you're right or wrong. I think it gives you the answer. Let's go, I think 1 and 2, and then I'll do this as 2 and 1. I know it's wrong. I'll submit it. Notice I got half of it right, half of it wrong, so it gives me 2 out of 4 points, which is cool, but it also gives me the answers, and now that I got the answers, I could maybe figure out, oh, I did that wrong. So there is still try a similar problem. So even on the test, you can do it multiple times. All it means is that it will give you the answer after your first try. You don't get 3 attempts at it. You get it right the first time or not. But if you don't get it right, you still have that option to try it again, and then try that again. And after you try it 4 or 5 times, you might get back to what happened the first time. So, not that we just want you to randomly go through and guess and check, but
Is that on all math AS for the quizzes?
at least for this class, yes. For all the tests. So the tests are, don't get too stressed out about tests. It's just really meaning that we'd like you to do these ones on your own to build your confidence that you really do know what to do. If you need to get some help at this time, that's okay. But again, you really have done all of these questions in the homework already. That was the idea. You get to the test, and most people, if you've gone through the homework, when you get to the test, it's straightforward. We go till 11:40, don't we? My wife was noticing and watching some of the videos. She goes, "You talk a lot." I says, "Yeah, I do." Sometimes. So we're not going to get as much time to. But I wanted to give you a good introduction. I don't know if I did all of this stuff on the introductory videos. Maybe some, but sometimes it's better to have it twice than not at all, right? Okay. Any questions on Math AS? Okay. So that you'll just do that 12 times. You got your 480 points. You do a little project. You got a passing grade. You got a nice solid C. A little bit of extra credit, you're up to a B. And by that time, the final exam's not going to be an issue. Take it. Even if you only get 50%, you still got an A. Okay? But again, if you go through all this, you'll do better on the final exam. And again, it's about building confidence and keeping you moving forward. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And let's now go into this slideshow. Okay, so one more chance. Any questions? Browse by an individual. Let's see. Okay. Start the slideshow. So, what this presentation's about, and it's we got till 11:40, right? Oh, jeez, I really did talk more than I wanted to, but we'll I'll skip a few of this stuff to get to because I got to get you how to get a free meal. I want to teach you how to use your hands to multiply. Now, some of you might know there's a trick to multiply by 9s, which is cool, but my method I'm going to show you, it's not really my method. Somebody else came up with it, but I researched it and not many people teach you it. I'm going to teach you how to multiply with your hands, and we do it in sections. As long as you know up to 5 times 5, you'll be able to basically multiply any number up to 15 times 15 with these methods I'm going to show you. Real simple methods, and it's going to be cool. Okay, we'll get at least those 2, and that'll give you something fun to work with. Again, there's not going to be any test on this part. There's no homework on this part. The only thing is you're going to write a page, double-spaced, and just about what you learned today. What impressed you, what bored you, I don't know, whatever, I don't want to make you think you had to have enjoyed it, because maybe you're not. But hopefully you're having some fun. Okay, so just kind of some feedback on how it went for you, page of that. Okay. So first of all, a little bit of what this is about is some other faculty and I, native faculty on campus. There's 4 of us, and then there's the American Indian Programs, which has Anna Cuddington as the director. We got together, I don't know, it's a long time ago. Can't even remember, this was like 2012, and we made this proposal to the administration about something called an Indigenous Scholars Institute. What it really was is I wanted some space for doing some tutoring from an Indigenous perspective, and I'm going to explain that one a little bit to you. But I knew if I said, can I have a room to do some tutoring, that they might say no. So I gave it a big name, and then they said, well, that sounds cool, let's build one. So now they're building one, and but some of the stuff might have gotten lost. I'm not sure if their idea of what it is and our idea of what it is exactly on par, but we'll see. So here's my idea of what the Indigenous Scholars Institute is about. It's about learning from an Indigenous perspective. Now, some people say, what is Indigenous? That means Native peoples, and maybe I'm not Native or something. But what I look at it as is part of my journey to figure out who I was. My mother is Chippewa Cree. We're Turtle Mountain Chippewa from North Dakota. But she's also Métis, she's French. So the French came over and they intermarried, they became part of the tribe. Her last name's LaFontaine, so there's a lot of French surnames back there. So they learned that. On my father's side, I'm Saxon, and not Anglo-Saxon, just Saxon. There's actually two different tribes. There were the Anglos and the Saxons, and so today we just call it all the people from England Anglo-Saxons, but that's not quite accurate. And so I found out from my dad's side, the Saxons were also a tribal type people. They lived in villages and they had a clan system. It's just that when the Romans came through, they industrialized there, and so England for centuries, and maybe thousands of years, lost their indigenous peoples. They were industrialized. And so that's what I started to see, that our world, we all have as our basis, we came from tribal people, we came from indigenous people who were connected to the earth and needed it to be that way. But we're also peoples who, growing up in urban settings, we've been urbanized, we've been industrialized, and we start to lose that connection to the earth. And we lose the connection to how we learn and who we are as people. And so that's, to me, what it means to be indigenous, is to get connected with who you are as a person, how you're connected to the earth, and that all of us can go back. It's just some of us have to go back for particular parts of our people. We just go back further in time when the people were really connected as people, not by institutions, not by technology, but just person to person. So that's part of it. Okay, so let's see if I can get to this part. Skip a few. Oh, come back. That's my wife and me, and our nonprofit. Again, I talked a little bit about that, didn't I? Open Global Village. So, yeah, I forget what I talked about sometimes. So we had a fundraising dinner for the second project we were doing to Thailand on our education abroad. I'm going to skip over this because it's interesting, but this is really, when we went to Thailand, this is one of the things this is the perspective I teach from. Human development, and this is, how many of you have heard of Kofi Annan? He used to be the Secretary General of the UN. He's my favorite one. I know there's a new guy out now, but my favorite Kofi Annan. He's just the one I grew up with. But he says that human development is about empowering all people through education, opportunity, and healthcare. Okay. Take care of at least two of them in this class: education and opportunity. And hopefully I don't do anything to hurt your healthcare, right? So the goal is that everybody's able to live a healthy, knowledgeable, and creative lives. In Thailand, the king of Thailand, who passed away last year, he received an award from the United Nations and he's the only one that I can find that has ever received it. He received the first one, and I have never found a second one that's been awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award in Human Development. And that's because he went out to the whole kingdom. He was made king at 19 years of old. And one of the things that not everyone's recognizing is his brother was king for like 3 months, but there was this mysterious thing where he was killed in his sleep. And they never figured it out. There was a gun next to it. There was 3 people in the army who just sort of disappeared. But, just think about it. You become, at 19 years old, you're asked to be king, and your brother was just king, and he ended up dead. And yet he took on that responsibility, and he said to rule with righteousness for the Thai people. He went out and visited all the Thai people. As I went over for the first project, I started seeing some, on the flight over, some videos about the work he had done. He had over 4,000 projects that were for the benefit of the people, making sure they had food. He had this whole economic theory, which is called sufficiency economy. Basically, it says everybody should have enough for today. When everybody has enough for today, then we can worry about tomorrow. But he says we don't have to build the biggest country in the world. We don't have to be the wealthiest. We just need to make sure every person has enough to eat today. And so all of his and he gave ways of, gardening and stuff, and whether even in the city, produce your own food, those kind of things. One of the ones that I most connected to is in the 50s, there was an outbreak of leprosy in Thailand, really bad. A lot of the adults had leprosy, and it's very highly contagious at that time. They hadn't been able to contain it. What happened though is, as like if you were a young child and your parents had leprosy, they might go to the lepers colony. But what started happening is schools would not accept children whose parents had leprosy, even though the children had been tested and they don't have leprosy because it's contagious, but they didn't have it. But they still said, "Oh, we don't even want to take a chance. You can't come to school." The king took money out of his own pocket, made a school for these children, because he didn't want to force things on other people anyway, and he not only did he open the school, he went there on opening day and welcomed the students in and touched them, and so that these kids should have opportunity just like everyone else. And again, many other things that he did. So by going there, it really affected me in the work I do of trying to make opportunities for every student to be successful, every student to learn. Instead of saying, well, I've gotten this far. I went back to school when I was 38. And I made my mentor at Oregon State University that I finished up with. She went back and she was like, she didn't get her PhD till she was 60 because she didn't even go back to school. And she said, they all laughed at me when I went and got my bachelor's degree. And then they said, okay, you did that, but you probably couldn't get a master's degree. So she went and did that. I said, oh yeah, well you got a master's degree, but you probably couldn't get a PhD. And I guess it was her husband and stuff, and deriding her, and she did it. And then she kicked his butt out. And, she was really good. But her first year, she's 60 years old. Most people are getting to retire. She was just taking off, and she's done some really great work. So we got that going on. So the king of Thailand, this was what was said of him. He says, as a world's development king, your majesty has reached out to the poorest and most vulnerable people of Thailand, regardless of their status, ethnicity, or religion. Listen to their problems and empower them to take their lives in their own hands. And that's really what it's about. Is my mom grew up on the reservation, and she talked about some of the things in the schools where it was like she felt like people made her feel like she wasn't as good as anyone else, and getting that feeling for herself. And again, she had a husband that sort of did the same thing, and it was when she was out on her own, she became a nurse. She went on, got a PhD, or not a PhD, she got her master's, but she did a diabetics program that was award-winning on her reservation. And she achieved all these things because she finally got some confidence and just said, I can do this, and I'm going to stop listening to people who say I can't. So, let's see. Let's let me give you a breakaway a little bit. The word of the day is success, so this is good. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to get your free lunch or meal or something. Let's come back here. Shoot. There it is. Oh. That comes over here. I'm going to go here. So now you don't really see any difference, but the video is just getting the board. So let's see. I'm over this way, so I can go to about there. Okay. So this is what you're going to do. I'm going to teach you how to multiply two-digit numbers in your head quickly, decisively, and amazingly, so that you can go in with your friends and get a free meal. I need somebody with a calculator, it could be a phone calculator, to verify that I'm getting these correct. I know I'm going to get them correct, but you won't know unless somebody says, yeah, that's correct. Okay. The second thing I need is somebody to give me a two-digit number. 36, thank you. So we're going to start with 36 there, okay? And I get to choose a second number. So kind of watch what I'm doing, because this is what you're going to be doing. Okay. I get to choose the second number. So if you give me 36, I'm going to choose 34. And when you take 36 times 34, you get 1,224. Correct. Okay, one wow. Sometimes I just see people going, isn't that exciting? I thought that was exciting. Of course, I don't think it's exciting anymore because I know what I'm doing. You're going to be doing this, believe it I didn't memorize this. I don't have this memorized because, but maybe 36 was an easy number, right? How many, can you think of a harder number that might be harder to multiply?
98.
98. Good, because you've got big and nines are usually hard. But you know, I'm going to choose. If you give me 98, I'm going to choose 92. So why do that? Well, because that's just 9,016. Right?
Yes, it is. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
90s. Why did you choose like one? No, it's got to be two-digit numbers. There's a trick to all this, but so part of it is, does anyone see some sort of pattern going on here?
The last two digits of the number is
Okay, you could see that 8 times 2 is 16, 6 times 4 is 24. Very good. And actually, when I first learned this, that's what I would do first because that was the easier part to do. Very good. But I do it last now because it makes it harder for people to figure out what I'm doing. Okay. So that's part of it. Does anyone know how I'm choosing my second number? Let's try it again. Somebody give me.
how you're choosing the second
Yeah, because that's the important part of the trick. I can't let you give me two numbers. You have to give me one, and I have to choose. I am choosing the second one based on the first one. There's a specific, because this is a specific trick that only works for specific numbers. So somebody give me another two-digit number.
77.
77. Oh, good. It's
73.
who said that?
73.
Why 73? You're right.
Like for the first one is 6 plus 4 is 10. Second one 8 plus
Okay.
2 is 10.
Good. The second numbers all have to add to 10. That's good. The second digits have to add. It only works when they add to 10. How am I choosing the first digit? Same. Good. So now you know how to choose the second number. Just use the same first digit and make sure that the second digit, that the two of them, that these two add to 10, and this trick will work. So we know already it's going to be 7 times 3, right? In the back side? 21, right? Okay. How am I doing the front one? It's similar, but 3 times 3 is 9, so that's not right. But 3 times what is 12? 3 times 4. 9 times 9 is not 90, it's 81, but 9 times what is 90? 9 times 10. So we're not going to take 7 times 7, we're going to take 7 times 3 times 4,
7 times 8.
9 times 10, 7 times 8, exactly, which is, I forgot, 56. But what and this is a Vedic math trick. It's got a sutra. The way to remember it, they call it by one more than before. And that was the hardest part for me, is to remember when I multiply the front, you have to multiply by one more than before. So 3 times 4, 9 times 10, 7 times 8, and you'll get the front part. And that's actually why I started doing the front part first, one of the reasons. The other thing is in the book, it kind of tells you to do it that way because what you do is, as you see that that's 7 times 8, you think 56, but you don't say 56. You say 5,621, so that you're doing the second part while you've already figured it out. And then people are thinking that, man, he's multiplying that in his head. Because, if you do 5621, they'll kind of say, oh, he did this or something. You do 5,600, they think that you're taking 3 times 7, 3 times 7, the old method for multiplying, and you got 2 lines of stuff and you add it up. They think you're doing that in your head, and they think you're incredibly intelligent. The thing is, you just got a nice little trick that works. And I did this when I was asked to go talk to a class of 4th graders here on the elementary school close by, and I didn't know if I'd be, that class, that game show, they say, are you as smart as a 5th grader? I didn't know if I was even as smart as a 4th grader, so I knew I had to have some tricks when I went. And I did that, and they thought I was a genius, so they didn't ask me too many other questions, so it was kind of like, oh, cool, it worked. Let's see, this is the way it works. You go there, happy hour or something, and again, maybe they've already had a round of drinks, that's fine. You shouldn't have any drinks because you want to have a clear head when you do it. You have them give you a number. You have somebody pull out their cell phone so that they have a calculator. You come up with the second number. You do this trick, and then they check you on it and say, okay, now you're buying my meal, or you're buying whatever. They'll lead out of your hand. You maybe do it 2 times. Don't try to do it too many times, because then they start figuring it out, and then they'll renege on your free meal. But that's one way. The thing it did for me, though, is after I practice this and then people see it, and it's kind of fun. It makes me feel like, wow, I feel like smart with math. And remember, I'm really an education major who took a little bit of math, and then I tried to be an engineer, but I wasn't successful, I'll be honest. In fact, dropped out of that. But and my goal, I'm not a math teacher because I love math. I actually didn't like it that much. I wanted to be a history teacher. There just was no jobs for history teachers. And then secondly, I had a math teacher that helped someone who struggled with math learn math, and I said, I want to be like him. And I don't have to be the great mathematician, but I can help people because I understand what it's like to struggle. And I can do crazy stuff like this that nobody else will do because they're all, it was good for them. So it's just, that's one thing. Okay. Let's, we're almost done. I got to give you I'll get back on the video here. Let's go here. I'm going to show you now how to multiply with your hands, because it revealed a little thing here, 7 times 8. That was difficult for me because when I was a kid, I made my own flashcards. We didn't have a lot of money, and I was cheap. Even if I had the money, I wouldn't go spend. Dad, I need some flashcards. He'd give me the money. I'd go buy candy. So then I'd go make my own flashcards, something like that. Even if I had the money, I'd like to buy candy or something. Or play pinball. Anybody else into pinball?
Yeah.
I love pinball. So. Anyway, so I made my own flashcards. But the problem is when I did 7 times 8, I put the answer down for 9 times 6. I had 54, 56 reversed. The problem was I was really good at memorizing the wrong answers.
Oh.
So to this day, when I do 7 times 8, I have to pause and say, is that 54 or 56? I'm going to show you now I've got a way that I can actually figure it out. Okay, so, and it's based on the same trick of having 2 numbers that add to 10. So I'm going to, I'll post this in Canvas so you can see it, and maybe I'll even do a full video on this. This is using the hand. Some interesting stuff in here, language and math, but I just want to get you this Chippewa is India. That's the center of the world, at least according to this map. That's about 1,500 years ago. But you look at India from this perspective, it was a center. And I've done a lot of research, and a lot of mathematics comes from India. There was a school in the north. They went with the Arabs came to study, and that's all the way we write our numbers today came to us through the Arabs who had studied with the Northern School of India. In Thailand, they have a different symbol system, but the numbers work the same. They just write them differently. I thought that Thailand had come up with its own mathematics. Well, no, they also went to a southern school in India. So southern India had a school of mathematics, and they had used slightly different symbols. And through Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, all those countries, they have a very similar symbol set. So they write their numbers differently. Like we write 1 in Thai, 1 looks like that. We write 2 in Thai, 2 looks like that. So just, different symbols for the same thing, different schools. But there's some nice tricks that come out, and again, I'm going to skip over all this. I was supposed to spend more time. Could have done this later. And we may. In fact, I'm thinking, this is kind of fun stuff, but take some time. I'm thinking of doing an extra credit workshop. I did this last spring with my class where I teach you Vedic subtraction. It's about 2 hours. I'll teach you a way to mindfully do subtraction where you'll be able to just look at 2 numbers, subtract them, and write down the number without feeling, and it doesn't feel like you did the subtraction. It's all based on the way they did the math in India. But we'll see about it. If there's enough interest, we'll do it. And even if there's not much interest, we might do it anyway. So I could do it to myself in the camera, right? Who needs students anymore? I got a whole camera. You'll watch it. We will record it though, and so that if you aren't able to attend on that day, you could watch it later. So actually, we don't need to mark, but we all got hands, right? Don't need calculators on this one. So if I got my hands and I want to do 8, what does 8 look like? 2 fingers go down, 8 are up, right? So this will give me a way that I could represent 8 just like this, right? If I know that 8 is 2 away from 10, sort of the complement, that I could just use one hand to represent 8. And that's the trick here, is that because we've got to represent 2 numbers and I only got 2 hands. So I'm going to represent 8 this way. So how would I represent 7? 3 would go down because 7 is 3 away from 10. So it's all based on 10. Okay. So this is 7. 3 fingers are down, 2 are up. This is 8. 2 fingers are down, 3 are up. So that's the complement. The complement to 10 goes down. What I do to do the multiplication is I take the fingers that are up and I add them together and count each one as 10. So how many up fingers do I have?
5.
I have 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. 50. So I'm thinking I'm up to 50. Then what I do with the down fingers is I take those down fingers, I like to bump them together because that means multiply. So this is add, this is multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. 50, 6. You see how I got a physical way to do it now. And the stuff I skipped over about the brain, the amygdala is down here, which is the emotional center. Most math comes in through the emotional center. And for a lot of us who've struggled with math, that's where it stops. We get emotional about it and it can't do the math. But if I move it up to the finger part of the brain, by doing this, right next to the finger part of the brain is the math part of the brain. It's just a trick that works. Tricked our brain into saying, don't worry about it, just use your fingers. Now do the math. Okay, tricked it. So it works. Here's another one. What numbers are these? 2 fingers down is 8. 4 fingers down is 6, right? Because 6 is 4 away from 10. So what is 6 times 8?
40.
40. 2 times 4, 48. 48. And that's 48, right, if you've memorized it. But notice if you haven't memorized it, all the facts, the only multiplication facts you really need is from 1 to 5. Up to 5 times 5, 1 times 1. You just need to know those. And then you're adding the top part. Kind of cool, huh? I've got a couple others, you practice through them, and this will be on the PowerPoint if you want to look at it. It works for all of them. But I want to show you, because we only got a minute left, the real power of this is we can work above 10. So this is how you get to 15 times 15. I want to do 12 times 13. The rules change a little bit, but not too much. 12 I represent, since 12 is 2 above 10, I put 2 down for 12 and 3 down for 13. Okay? So that's the amount over 10. What I do is on this method, I ignore the up fingers. I might need them later, so I won't cut them off or anything, but we don't need them for the calculation. What I do is I do the Spider-Man move, which is like this, and I add the down fingers. 3 plus 2 is 5, but 50. Whenever I'm adding, they're 10, so there's 50. And then I multiply. 3 times 2 is 6, so it's 56. But since it's above 10, it's going to be 10 times 10 is 100. So I always start 156. And if you look at 12 times 13, the answer to 12 times 13 is 156. Okay, and I'd have to bust the calculator out because I hadn't memorized that. But it works for those. So can you imagine how many of you would think when you were growing up, maybe 4th or 5th grade, if you would have been able to bust out 14 times 15, wouldn't you have been amazing to your friend? Wouldn't have they started thinking you're a math genius, and they would have started treating you like a math genius, and then you would have started believing you were a math genius, and all of a sudden you would be a math genius. That's all it takes. Okay, that's all it takes. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Next week we'll start into the content. Shortly there'll be a link, and I'll put out a little video, send you an email when it's all up. Word of the day, success, and a little paper about what you enjoyed, what you found about this class, and there's 20 plus 20 points. And these are my office hours, so I got plenty of time to hang out with y'all, answer questions.
I'm competing in a theater festival, the Kennedy Center American Falls Theater Festival.
Wonderful.
And it takes place for like a week. I'm gonna do the online class, but I just need like my teacher to sign up. And like I know she's leaving. That's fine.
You got it.